I had a request for hamstring work. So we're going to kind of work into a lot of the back side of our body today, lengthening the hamstring and the low back. We'll work into hips as well, but we are going to get started in one of my favorite poses. So it's reclined. It's called Supta Baddha Konasana, and I just love the way that sounds. So I've got a little bit of a blanket. You can recline onto a bolster or onto a rolled up blanket or whatever you have. And we're going to take the strap and loop it around your low back. And then it's important, soles of the feet will come together and the strap will go on the outside of the feet. And we'll loop that strap or belt or whatever you've got. And you'll want to make sure that that little loop or buckle or whatnot is not in your hip crease, not on your feet. And you'll kind of notice as you sit up, you can go a little bit deeper, but then as you lean back, you'll notice, okay, I tightened my strap too much. So we'll just kind of loosen that up a little bit, or you could leave it a little bit looser, recline, and then tighten it. There we go. And you'll want the straps to kind of come right into the hip crease here. And you'll have a little gentle tug on the low back. This is honestly one of my favorite poses. You could bring your hands to your belly here. I love to take them out nice and wide. If you've got some extra pillows close by, you could kind of prop up your arms as well. I like my palms up towards the ceiling. And just feel this incredible stretch along the front body. So many great benefits to this posture of a little bit of hip opening, heart opening. We feel the inner thighs open, which sometimes when that part of our body is tight, it contributes to hamstring tightness or even quad tightness, tightness into the hips. So welcome to our stretch and restore class. We've got 45 minutes together to just take things really nice and slow, letting our body slowly open. Welcome to our reading in our next posture. So for this posture, I just want you to settle in. Welcome yourself to this practice, your breath, your body, just as you are. You might notice once you're here for a little bit, you can tighten that strap up. That's what my body was telling me. So, and you don't need the strap at all. I just think it feels really, really good. Kind of that little bit of pressure on the hip flexors, a little bit of pull on the low back. You also might notice if you've got your arms stretched out nice and wide that you could slide them up just a little bit closer towards the top edge of the mat. Gravity works wonders when we've got our torso elevated and the arms or the tops of the hands supported by the mat. Just continue to breathe here. We'll maybe spend about another minute or two here. Try not to get caught up with these longer holds, to get caught up with the time of how much longer. Just doing your best to stay in the present moment, focusing on the inhales and exhales, process of opening up, kind of unfurling the energy and the tightness and the stress from our week to set ourselves up for a really calm, relaxed Friday and weekend. You extend your arms out wide. You might just slowly start to slide your hands down towards your body. You could even try from palms flipped up. Rotate the palms down onto your mat. And then you can come out of this. I like to just slide one foot out, slide the other foot out, close my knees in towards one another. I've still got the strap around my back, no problem there. And maybe just take the knees and windshield wiper them, or rest the knees against one another. That's a position that always feels really, really good in my body as well. And you've got an option to stay here in this reclined position. What we'll do is almost just coming into a little bit of a bridge, lift the hips to slide the strap out. And we're going to come into a hamstring stretch here. So you can stay in reclined position, or you can come all the way down to your back. Let's start with both feet on the mat, knees towards your ceiling. And we'll just slide that strap. It's okay if it's still looped around the ball mound of the right foot. Extend your right foot up towards the ceiling. And you've got an option here to lengthen the left leg. And if you are expecting, it's good to stay at this little bit of incline, keeping the head above the heart. Still keeping that support on the back. We're going to take a handful of different hamstring openers and just noticing how taking different variations might stretch and open and lengthen that part of the body in a different way. So we notice with this opener, we get a little bit of tension in the arms from holding onto the straps. You can also explore pointing the right toes and then flexing the foot. And I find when I really drop the toes down towards my face or flex into the foot, I really feel this into my calf and hamstring even deeper. Pointing will get into the front of the right leg and flexing into the back. Just a few more breaths here. We'll transition both straps into the right hand here. Use your left hand, bring it to the top of your left hip or the top of the left side of the pelvis, and just open up the right leg a little bit here. Now you'll notice if you're reclined, almost takes me to kind of roll over onto the right side. If you want, you can bend into the left knee and sort of lean that left leg over to the left to give yourself a little kind of counterbalance. We're opening up, externally rotating the right hip, opening up the inside of the right thigh. Good. Bring the right leg back up to center. Release the strap, set the strap off to the side, and you can just send both legs long here. Take some awareness into the right leg. Take that awareness into the left leg and just notice if you might feel some different sensations. No judgment either way, just an awareness. Maybe pointing both toes, or both sets of toes, both feet, and then flexing into both feet. Noticing the calves kind of contract. Good. And we'll bend into both knees once again. Plant the feet on the mat, knees towards the ceiling. And we'll take that off to the other side. Strap this time goes into the opposite leg. If you're following along with me, left side. Each side is different, and this is our first opportunity to embrace that. So this time you might keep your right foot on the mat, or you can explore sending that leg long. Explore how it feels to point and flex the toes on the left side. Breathe well into the entire back side of the left leg. From the bottom of your heel, through the Achilles, into your calf, the back of the left knee, and all the way along the back side of the hamstring, into the glute. So we envision all of those parts lengthening, opening. Got another 2 to 3 breaths before we take the left leg out to the side. Transition both straps into the left hand. Right hand will come and put a little bit of pressure on the right hip and open up the left leg. I think it's easier to bend into the right knee and kind of take that right knee open to the side a little bit. Momentum feels like it's pulling me off to the left, opening the inside of the left leg. Good. Lift that left leg back up to center. We'll release the strap, set it off to the side, extend both legs long. You can take your arms open to the side as well. Notice even the sensation in the arms as well. After gripping onto that strap, you might notice some tingling or zinging sensations, that energy of the blood flow moving. Bend into your knees here, feet on the mat, and we'll just roll off to one side and push our way up to a tall seat. Next up is a wide leg forward fold. So you can prop yourself up on a little bit of a blanket. That sort of helps the hips or the pelvis tilt forward just a tiny bit. And what I'm going to do is bring whatever you might need. You can take this with props. You can take this without. I like to bring props in. And hinge it forward. So for some of us, we'll feel it on the inner thighs. Some of us will feel it in the hamstrings. Some will feel it in the low back. And I like to find a spot that you can kind of rest on to the props that are supporting you. And your wide leg forward fold might look different than mine. You might, have legs in, or you might have a really great range of motion to externally rotate. So your legs might be really far out. Either way is just fine. And as you're here in our wide leg forward fold, I will read today's reading. So it's February 5th. This is from Melody Beattie's Journey to the Heart. This is an interesting one because some people really like to tie up loose ends. It's titled, Learn to Live with Unfinished Projects. Whether your project is sewing a dress, reading a book, writing a book, building a home, or learning a lesson on your journey, learn to live comfortably with unfinished work. Whatever you are working on, whatever you are in the midst of, doesn't need to be finished in perfect order with all the loose ends in place for you to be happy. For too many years, we worried and fretted, denying ourselves happiness until we could see the whole picture, to learn the entire lesson, cross every T and dot every I. That meant we spent a lot of stressful time waiting for that one moment when the project was complete. Enjoy all the stages of the process you are in. The first moments when the germ of the idea finds you. The time before you begin, when the seed lies dormant in the ground, getting ready to grow. The beginning, all the days throughout the middle. Those bleak days when it looks like you're stuck and you won't break through. Those exciting days when the project, the lesson, the life you're building takes shape and form. Be happy now. Enjoy the creative process, the process of creating your life, yourself, and the project you are working on today. Don't wait for those finishing moments to take pleasure in your work and your life. Find joy all along the way. So as we are here in this fold, I always like to think of folds as symbolizing letting go or surrendering. That fits in with that reading quite well. We don't know what that finished product will look like, that big picture. All we can know is what today, the here and now, looks like. So we do our best to use this practice to kind of take joy in the present moment and do our best to let go of all of those unknowns. You might notice as you're here for a bit, you can go just a bit deeper. And in this practice, we do not always need to go to that edge. The theory of restorative yoga is finding comfort and support in postures, hence bringing in lots of props. So kind of finding that sweet spot of getting a good stretch, but also finding
the support within that posture. Take a bit of a body scan. Can you soften into the jaw? Notice if you're clenching into any parts of your body or holding tension. Maybe take a cleansing breath to let that go. Let's take a cleansing breath together. Take the inhale through the nose. An open mouth exhale. You can bring the hands down to the mat if they're not there already. Start to walk the hands closer to the body. Lift the torso. You might walk the hands behind. I always feel a craving to take a little bit of a heart opener after forward fold. Gosh, time flies. I can make this like a 90-minute class. I look at the clock. So we're going to move to a single leg forward fold and invite some side body opening. So really interesting conversation with my PT yesterday about, so our hip flexors come, from the insides of our thigh, and they come kind of underneath the pelvis and they attach to the side of the oblique. So a lot of us from sitting a lot have really tight hip flexors and trying to open the hips, but really right now we're going to work into that connection point from the hip flexor into the oblique or the side body. So let's take right leg and extend that long. Left foot comes to the inside, and we're going to take a little bit of a twist. So bring the right hand to the inside of the right leg, use that to sit tall, and then twist a little bit open to the left. And then you can just slide the right hand down the right leg, reach the left arm up and over. So I want you to notice, you could even bring your right hand, I'll try to show you here. You can reach for the edge or try to find the edge of the pelvis here. And just above that bony structure is kind of a connection point between the hip flexor and the oblique. And that's where my PT has been doing a lot of work for me. So just notice as you reach that left arm up and over, you might lean it forward or lean it back a little bit, kind of noticing where it feels good in your body to take that side body opening. And with this single leg extended, we notice that we get a little bit more kind of hamstring work. It's all honestly connected. So even working into our side body, hip flexors, it all helps open up those hamstrings. Good. Let's float the left hand down and just sit nice and tall, and you can sort of align your spine towards the top edge of the mat. Good. What we'll do here is just switch it off to the other side. So left leg extends, bring the right foot in, sit nice and tall. Left hand helps you kind of move your torso off to the right. And then we'll slide that left hand down, right arm reaches up and over. And you can feel with your left hand kind of moving over to find that connection point. For me, it's a lot harder on this side. I'm not sure why. It's a lot easier to feel when you're laying on your back.
or in a reclined position to feel for like the top kind of crest of the pelvis, bony structure on each side. And the connection is almost kind of under, so it's a hard spot to massage and to get to. Good, let's float the right hand down, realign the spine, twist it more towards center, and we'll come on over to our tabletop here. Ooh, lots of cracks in my body. So just taking some movements that feel really good for you. Could be forward and back, side to side, hip circles. Not a wrong choice at all. Maybe child's pose calls to you. Coming back to tabletop, just bring your right foot forward here. And what we're going to do is shift the hips back. So this is called half splits. Right toes are flexing up towards your face or towards your ceiling, and push the right heel down. So really activate the back of the right leg. And this for me is probably the most intense. Hamstring stretch. Keep digging that right heel in. And then you can think about subtly drawing the right hip back, almost like you're trying to drag your right heel back on the mat a little bit. And if that doesn't intensify it for you, I don't know what will. Oh, this is pretty intense for me. Let's come out of this, just walk the hands forward, bending into the right knee, and then we'll take it back to the half splits and come forward into the low lunge and back to half splits. Good, and back to lunge. Come back to your tabletop here and invite stillness or movement, just checking in. And we'll find that on the other side. Left leg is always a little bit more stiff for me. Flex the toes, flex the foot, push the heel down, and think about drawing the left hip back. Breathe well. Nice and calm breaths to the back of the left leg. Take one more breath here. Stay for that exhale, good. And we'll just rock it forward into the lunge and back. Take about 2 or 3 more of these. Good. Bring it forward and let's just bring the left knee back to meet the right. We're going to come into a half pigeon here. So let's start on the right leg. What I'm going to do is take this little blanket I've got towards the back, and I want to bring it kind of over to the right side because I'm going to sneak it underneath my right glute. So to come into this, right knee comes up by the right wrist, right foot comes somewhere in between the left wrist and the left thigh. And I'm going to sneak that blanket underneath my right seat. So that gives us a little bit more support. And you can come upright. If this doesn't feel good in your body, you can come to your back and take a figure 4, or you can come to a seat and take a figure 4. This is a big hip opener. We won't be here all that long. And just start to bring the torso forward. You might come on to a bolster or a pillow or something. And I want you to feel that the hips are square and level. So you can even bring your hand to like the low back or the hips. We don't want to be leaning too far off to the right or too far off to the left. Top of the left leg is on the mat, top of the left foot is on the mat, and left leg is extended straight back behind you. Carry a lot of tension in our hips, so try your best to soften into the body and the breath. Take about 3 to 4 more breaths here. When you are ready to come up, start to plant the hands on the mat. Push down into the mat to lift the torso, and it could feel really good to kind of just roll off to the right side and swing the left leg around. Could feel good to just come on back to tabletop. Just kind of notice where your body wants to go naturally. And if you brought a little bit of support underneath the right feet, we'll move it off to the left leg. And from our tabletop here, just slide your left knee up towards your left wrist. Right foot kind of comes somewhere in between. You can peek back at the right leg, that it's straight back behind you, and each side is a little different. So you notice if it doesn't feel good on this side, choose a different option. And notice if you need a little bit of support. My support on this side, because my left hip is a little bit tighter, I'm going to roll up that blanket one more time to give a little bit more support on this side. And then surrendering in, you might bring a hand to the low back just to feel that you are squaring the hips as much as possible to the mat. Right leg straight back behind you. I think this is probably the pose where we notice and can tune into the differences left and right side more than probably any other posture in this practice. Of really taking time to honor kind of the differences, sometimes subtle, sometimes not, from left to right. Take about 3 to 4 more breaths here. Come back to that reading of the day. What does that kind of bring to mind for you? There's always unfinished projects, right? And how do we be okay with the fact that things aren't complete, or we can see our whole life as an unfinished project, right? We don't know what the end result will be. Got projects at work, projects at home. So how do we let go of that end result and just kind of enjoy the ride along the way? When you're ready, kind of start to come out of this. And you can move that off to the side. Might just roll over to a seat here and maybe windshield wiper the knees or take the soles of the feet together. Just noticing what your body craves in this moment. Good. And we're going to make our way down to our backs to take a final round of twists. If you need a little bit more support and can take this with a bolster or with a blanket, you can take that as well. I'm kind of going to set all my props off to the side, exception of a blanket for my head. So get down to your back safely. If you are pregnant or newly postpartum, slide it on down and then roll to your back. We won't be here all that long. And what we'll do is just take our arms out to a nice big T and windshield wiper the knees back and forth. Feel that great release on the low back. I think this has to be one of my other favorite things to do in the body. And then when you're ready, you can drop both knees over to the left. The closer you hike those knees up towards your left arm, the deeper the stretch will be. If that's too much, you need room for baby, drop the knees down, or you just doesn't feel good for you. You might start to take your gaze over your right shoulder. Seeing these twists as a sort of wringing out for our spine, just like we do with a washcloth. Taking one side, wringing it one way, the other side, wringing it the other way. Thinking of that excess water we wring out, envisioning that same process in our spine here. Good. We'll take the knees back towards center and just take a neutral spine here, both feet on the mat, arms out to the side. And then we'll take our knees off to the other side, gaze opposite the knees. Take one more breath in and breath out. Bring the knees back up to center. Find that neutral spine and just stay still for a moment here. Check in if there's any other movements that feel good for you prior to your final rest. You might bring your knees in for a squeeze and find happy baby, rocking side to side. You might take a little inversion, sliding the legs up towards the ceiling. Or you might just be ready for your final rest, which can look a lot of different ways. I'm going to take the bolster under my knees, blocks supporting my feet, and a blanket behind my head. So check in, my friends, if there is anything else you need. Maybe you put the socks on or grab a blanket to cover up. Maybe you take a drink of tea. And we find our final posture, most important posture of class, our Savasana. Scanning into the body to see how we can fully
let go. And not necessarily seeing the Savasana as, the end result, the completion of our practice. It is kind of the end of our physical practice, but the beginning of taking this practice of all of the great things we can learn on our mat to the rest of our workday, our weekend, rest of our time with our partner, our children, our friends, our family. And knowing that it's okay to kind of sit in that moment of uncertainty when you feel like you need to wrap up those loose ends or complete a project. We relish in that time, that in between. Maybe a cleansing breath feels good to help you truly let go. There's no more physical work to be done in our practice. Returning to normal breath, letting our body fully melt into the mat. As you take your next few breaths, you might start to find some gentle movements in your body, deepening into the breath. If you prefer to stay longer in Savasana, I think that's a really great choice. If you are choosing to move and end your practice, you may make those movements a bit larger. When you are ready, should you choose to end your practice in a seat, slowly make your way there. I will read from Melody Beattie's Journey to the Heart, February 5th. Learn to live with unfinished projects. Whether your project is sewing a dress, reading a book, writing a book, building a home, or learning a lesson on your journey, learn to live comfortably with unfinished work. Whatever you're working on, whatever you're in the midst of, does not need to be finished in perfect order with all those loose ends in place for you to be happy. For many years, we have worried and fretted, denying ourselves happiness until we could see the whole picture, learn the entire lesson, cross every T and dot every I. That means we spent a lot of time, stressful time, waiting for that one moment when the project was complete. Enjoy all the stages of the process you are in. The first moments when the germ of the idea finds you. The time before you begin, when the seed lies dormant in the ground, getting ready to grow. Enjoy the beginning and all the days throughout the middle. Those bleak days when it looks like you're stuck and you won't break through. Those exciting days when the project, the lesson, the life you're building takes shape and form. Be happy now. Enjoy the creative process, the process of creating your life, yourself, and the project you're working on today. Don't wait for those finishing moments to take pleasure in the work in your life. Finding joy all along the way.
We'll take both hands to heart here. Drop your chin to your chest. This is gratitude for this practice that allows us to enjoy the most uncertain of times, those times where we feel like that project is never ending, helping us to just slow down and enjoy those moments in between. Thank you so much for tuning in, slowing down. As always, the light and the love in me sees and honors the light and the love in you. Namaste. Thank you so much. Thank you, Natalia.